What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and this is the season finale for X-Men 97, Season 1, Episode 10. Uh, Definitely feels like we're getting more X-Men 97, or will it be X-Men 98 when we get it? Because it'll be a new season, so are they going to move it up a year? Food for thought on that. Um, so yeah, this is on Disney Plus, has audio description, still by Jedediah Barton. He's been doing the whole season. And this is something worth subscribing because I do sometimes do entire season recaps like I'm doing right now for X-Men 97, and I'm also doing for Fallout, and I will be doing for other shows. We've got definitely House of the Dragon and The Boys both come back in June. So I will be recapping both of those because I did the previous seasons, which you can find already on my channel. Anyway, anywho, back to the X-Men, full of great moments. We have Magneto, who is still up on the asteroid, and Bastion, who's still fighting the team down on the ground, and sort of the resolution of those two fights. And lots of heavy things happen in this episode. Lots of cool moments, too, that get brought out. Some of my favorite moments in the episode actually was the moment where Cyclops said the unspoken. And as Wolverine is lying there catatonic from having his adamantium ripped out of him at the end of the final episode, and he's healing, and you know, it's touch and go because obviously that was a lot. So they're really hoping his healing factor pulls through. I think he'll be fine. There was a moment in the comic books that's kind of famous where he fought the Hulk, and the Hulk ripped him in half, and then Wolverine had to crawl to his other half of his body. So if he can be split into two pieces, I think he can survive this. That was sort of always the point of Weapon X, although the immense amount of pain of having all that adamantium ripped out of him, I'm sure was not fun. But we did have Scott having to say, you know, don't you dare do this to her, you know? Acknowledging the fact that he knows that his wife has feelings for Logan. And I thought that was a solid moment. And of course, we come back to it later on because Morph, when he's trying to get Wolverine to come to it, also flashes into Jean. And since Jean couldn't be there, and pretends to be Jean to try to help get Wolverine through. So lots of references to that. Meanwhile, Jean gets to be the Phoenix, which she just kind of gets to be the Phoenix, whatever, even though the Phoenix it's not a mutant ability, it's an entity. So did she summon the entity back? Did it come back to her? Anyway, it's just sort of weird. It's like she just snaps her fingers and like the Phoenix comes back, and then it just goes away now. It's just like everything's cool. Like the Phoenix just kind of left. All right. But it's a solid thing to include because it's not a mutant and it's also not human. So Bastion doesn't understand it because Bastion doesn't plan for things like Phoenix. So it's one of those like wild card things, as by the way are many things in this universe, because we have many characters in this universe who have powers but are not from the mutant gene. So lots of things could and should confuse him, like Spider-Man, for example, who sadly we did not get that cameo in the audio description. I just know there is a Spider-Man cameo in this episode. So Spider-Man would be an example of a character that I'm sure would confuse Bastion because he has abilities, but he's not a mutant, but he's mutated somehow. So I'm sure that would confuse the hell out of Bastion. So, of course, Bastion continues to push further into his insanity, which I thought was really interesting. I think Theo James has done a really good job doing the voiceover work this season for Bastion and this whole storyline. So the team does mention the fact that, Charles did go and try to recruit him, and it was his mom that said no. So, that's brought up, and Bastion doesn't really seem to take too much of that. It's nice to see Scott try the Professor X route of things, but it doesn't always work. Sometimes you have not all of your villains can become, friends. Meanwhile, what's up with the Brotherhood? Like, where did they go? Like, it's funny because we always have that intro, and they kept the thing where it's like the X-Men running at the Brotherhood, but like the Brotherhood was like nowhere this whole time. Like Magneto's Brotherhood is just like vanished and just gone. Just he's not even in contact with them. Just nothing. It's just they're in the opening, but no, that's it. So we have Cable gets his arm ripped off. He has a lot of moments too, because Sinister makes him say how many times he's leapt in order to try to stop Bastion before Cable talks about how he felt like, he was left behind, and he always heard the stories of the X-Men, and he knew that was supposed to be him. And of course, Cable is not their only child, so I wonder how many seasons we're going to run, if we're going to get to all of the kids of Jean and Scott, or if Cable's just going to be the one. Or I was kind of hoping that we would get to, since there was hints at Phoenix, I kind of hoped originally that we would be getting to Phoenix 2, the daughter, but that didn't happen, so no Hope Summers for us, or Rachel. But yeah, so Cyclops does do the thing where he's like, I don't want to be like my father, when he's thinking about having to sacrifice himself in order to stop the asteroid from hitting Earth, because the humans try to shoot an asteroid down thinking that that's gonna, because they never watched like Armageddon or anything like that, and the Magneto protocols, and I don't know, it's just this whole thing. Anyway, so that doesn't quite work out for anybody. And Nightcrawler is really underutilized this episode. I'm just going to say that. I'm just going to throw that out there. It's like one moment is like to pray. He's used to pray. But then like a lot of characters kind of got sidelined. I felt like Rogue didn't really do much this episode. Jubilee has one cool moment, which references back to the episode where she was stuck in a video game, because her quip is game over, schizoid, as she blasts fireworks at Bastion. Sunspot does get to finally call himself Sunspot, so he's no longer Roberto, he's Sunspot. So presumably, if he gets up to full-fledged X-Men in the next season, he will actually be in the opening credits with his character name, with his mutant name. So that'll be nice. We have Morph, who gets to have a really cool moment after Sinister's powers are sucked away from him, and he changes into what Sinister looks like. This is his Sinister I knew. There was some shit where he was like turning into like dark goo or something, and I was like, what's happening with Sinister's powers here? Like, what is he doing? Like, what are we doing with Sinister's powers? Like, this is not... But then we finally tackled like what Sinister is and what Sinister is known for doing, and I was like, okay. But I felt like I feel like we've given Morph powers too that he doesn't have, because he's definitely replicated people's powers, not just like what they look like, but also their powers. And it's just like, I don't know it's not his power sets. Otherwise, that would make him the most powerful mutant, because if he could just become any mutant at any time, he would be the most powerful mutant. Now, there was a mutant that was like that, who could mimic, that was his name, the powers of nearby mutants so that he could replicate, but he had to be near them. So it'd be like having two Magnetos in that situation. So Mimic would have been like really useful in this, because if they got Mimic to the proximity of Magneto where he could have used his abilities, he could have mimicked Magneto's powers and then been able to do the same thing. So, but Morph just seems to, be able to do what some powers with some stuff and others with not. But all of this leads to eventually everybody gets sucked into time. There's a hint that there are no X-Men left, and Forge is left at the X Mansion by himself, trying to reassemble X-Men. I would really suggest to any of my blind subscribers / audience that if you're an X-Men fan, seek out recaps, because as awesome as the audio description has been, this series is full of Easter eggs. I don't have time to cover them, and it's really disappointing, because I really want to be able to embrace the fact that I was able to follow the main plot, and Easter eggs are not really something that we necessarily need all the time, and they try. Like, we did get a notable cameo from Silver Samurai again, which was weird. It's weird that we're cameoing the same heroes. It's like, we already heard Silver Samurai, we already heard Omega Red. We didn't, considering there are other heroes that pop up in this, we could have probably swapped those for different ones that we hadn't used yet. I don't know that we need to keep pointing out that Silver Samurai and Omega Red are going to be here unless they're going to be huge factors in the next season. So, but we did get Daredevil popped up here, and also Tony and Cap are both chilling at the White House watching this whole thing go down. So that's the level of influence they have, as they get to go in the White House, because they're not mutants. They're, heroes. They're the Avengers. So, yeah, a lot of things. But, like, for example, cool cameos that would have been able to be mentioned is the fact that one of the things they reference when they're flashing to things on Earth that Magneto could be destroying is they do flash a shot of his kids, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, and also presumably Polaris, although from what I understand that the third person is sort of in the shadows, because there was always this, like, is Polaris Magneto's daughter? Is she not? She has the same powers as Magneto. So they've been on and off again on that. Apparently, from what I've heard, the latest is that she's on again. So the latest canon is that she is Magneto's daughter. So there's that. That would have been a cool cameo. Like I said, there's a Spider-Man cameo. There's even a Cloak and Dagger cameo. But there's also some references that Iceman has to that Forge has, including people like Iceman, in the whole rebuilding of the team, about where certain X-Men are that we see briefly, little things that are thrown into people who possibly could pop up in season 2 if Forge were to assemble an X-Men-ish group, like with him and Bishop, to go find the other X-Men who are lost to time and figure out where they are. Some of them seem to be lost in Cable's timeline, so, which is a cool thing for Cyclops and Jean, as they'll get to do their Red and Slim storyline. Likely when Cable was talking about the fact that there were people who told him stories of the X-Men, going to turn out that that's going to actually have been the X-Men. So, that's interesting. So, we also get a hint of Apocalypse, and we also didn't get clarity, though, full clarity on what happens with Xavier and Magneto, because there are a lot of hints towards Onslaught. So, even though we do get our strong Apocalypse cameo at the end, we also didn't actually get a definitive no, we're not doing Onslaught, because they were leaning heavily into the Onslaught storyline, because this is how Onslaught happens, is when Xavier tries to do this with Magneto, and their brains will get lost, and then they become this murderous Onslaught thing that kills a lot of mutants. So I don't know, I mean, I think Apocalypse was tackled already in the X-Men animated series, but I don't remember if Onslaught was. I don't think Onslaught was off the top of my head, so I wouldn't rule it out. I think there was an Apocalypse cameo, but I don't know that we're going to stick to that. It'll be interesting to see because they left it in going in so many different directions that you could go pretty much anywhere with this. There were even members of Alpha Flight who cameoed in the final episode, so they kind of threw a bunch of stuff at you and said, try to figure out what season 2 is going to be. Because we've got people scattered across time, so we could really tackle a whole bunch of different things and go after a whole bunch of different angles if we wanted to. So we also don't know who caused the time rift, who sucked the X-Men and saved them, pulled them into time and pulled them into different zones. We don't even know where all the X-Men are. So it's very interesting. So that's X-Men 97. I thought the episode was really solid. I thought it bounced back. I appreciated it a lot more. I feel like it tied in a lot of things. Anything that I had a problem with got kind of resolved in the final episode, because we did circle back around and realize, oh shit, we needed to resolve the Bastion storyline. That was the thing that I was like, I don't know that Magneto's the number one problem right now, while Bastion still has like his army of like super sentinels. So and when you're looking at how many X-Men it took just to defeat one at the X-Men Mansion, let alone the fact that he has an army of them, it would take them forever to work through one by one by one. So that was my point originally. It's like, okay, so I know you've got Magneto, but Magneto does have a point, because it's a lot of them, and it's going to take a while for you guys to wipe through all of them. So, but it'll be interesting to see where we go for season 2. Lots of cool cameos, lots of references to the comic books. Again, if you're a fan of the X-Men franchise, I would definitely seek out any of the myriad of I've been slowly kind of, I haven't been watching them as much, like doing other recaps and watching other people talk about these Easter eggs, because it's kind of depressing to know all the stuff that I'm missing. Like, I thought it was, I'm a huge fan of Iceman, for example. It's like one of my top 5. And it's always kind of been sad for me. Like, one of the things about the X-Men animated series was that he wasn't one of the featured characters. He wasn't one of the main storyline characters. And then like there's an Iceman tease here, and it's like I would really love to see Bobby Drake be like front and center in this. I always feel like he's one of the original X-Men, and I always feel like he gets the short end of the stick in like everything. He got it in the animated series, he gets it in the X-Men universe. He's not really he's sort of the backup. Even in the first X-Men film, he's sort of like Shawn Ashmore's sort of like in the background in the very first X-Men film. So yeah, it's I just would love to see more Bobby Drake. So, but I'm really happy about the finale. I thought it was really solid. I had a lot of great storylines that get pulled together, and it's amazing this is happening. I didn't think, if I could go back and like tell my child self, by the way, when you get older, they're going to finish this show and keep going. They're going to bring it back and then push the story forward. Be like, no, they're not. No, they're not. Of course, now this is making other people want the other animated series, Marvel animated series from the 90s to all have their resolutions too. So, we'll see. We'll see if this is big business for Disney or not. Nostalgia reigns hard sometimes. So, I am sad that Gambit is just like out now. Although it's always possible, because of multiverses and everything, that they could just pull Gambit from somewhere. So it's not totally without the realm of possibility that Gambit could exist in 2 places at the same time. So maybe, you never know. But I have a feeling that they're just going to let his death be impactful, and it's a shame, because in the original Age of Apocalypse storyline, I think he's the one that survives the longest. I kind of remember a shot of Gambit being sort of like this old Gambit, and he's like survived everything. So anyway, that's it. Thanks for joining me on this season long recap. And I still have to finish Fallout, and then I'll be certainly doing some other shows. So click that subscribe button. I'm going to give X-Men 97 Season 1, Episode 10 an A. I thought they really tied it together nicely in the end. So let me know what you think in the comments. Please like and subscribe and share and tell all your friends. And I will see you guys on the other side.